Hello, Beck's team. Glad you could join us today. I'm here with Jason Morehouse, our production manager, and Michael Planup, our soybean grower manager. And we're here on June 14th to give you an update on planting progress during this historic delayed planting season. So, Jason, why don't you give us an update on just where we are in terms of acres planted here on June 14th?
Well, really proud to report, Scott, that we've got seed corn in every field that we intended to have seed corn in, so that's really good. We're still finishing up putting the delays of males and females in and getting things wrapped up. Across the board, across the different locations, are we further along in some areas than others? Give us just a little insight into that. So that statement would cover all locations, and Atlanta and Mount Pleasant are the two that are furthest behind finishing delays. Over in Ohio and Illinois, they've got all of their delays in. So a lot of the corn's coming out of the ground, and initial stands look pretty good considering the conditions that it went in. Michael, how about our soybean grower?
On soybeans, Scott, this morning we got an update in. It's ever changing, but we're at 72% right now across the whole network, and we're having another beautiful day, so I'd imagine everyone's still rolling, and that's going to continue to go up through until we get some rain. Region by region, our western, north, and west areas are the most complete. I would say Colfax area, northern Iowa, western Iowa, and into Minnesota are pretty much done. As we look back over here towards Indiana, where we have the most of our acres, we're creeping up into that mid 60s, right around 70% done. So we're gaining, but we have been behind this year compared to our western teammates.
Well, Jason, I know we had a few days and nights when the planters were rolling really all night long, all day long. I know June 3rd and 4th were particularly big days. Tell us what the team, not only here but beyond here, has really done to accomplish what where we are today and being across every acre we intended to be.
It seemed like the first reality that hit us was kind of the last week of May, when we're kind of looking at ourselves saying there's just no way this is all going to go down very easily. So we kind of told ourselves that we really needed to buckle down, and whenever the opportunity come, we were going to pursue it. And so at least here in Atlanta, we pulled 2 all-nighters, I think it was. 30-hour planning window we got there. It seemed like there were days where we got 4 hours. It would dry out about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, about the time most employees were ready to head home for the day, and was able to plant till 10 o'clock at night and just got a little bit in. So everyone's really showed a lot of resolve at really just being ready and available, and when we can go, get something done. A lot of the other locations had similar struggles. Mount Pleasant particularly seemed like they never could catch a break and always got a little bit more rain than the other locations. And they, same thing, just persevered, had the growers all ready to go, and was able to execute when the opportunity came. Yeah, tremendous effort. And I know grower team as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, Michael.
Yeah, maybe the difference between the bean and the corn side is, our biggest challenge is getting the seed to the farmer, and then letting the farmers are pulling those all-nighters and working. So our biggest challenge right now has been distribution. And that's where I've seen a lot of huge success with not only my team, but across some of the teams. Caleb Matchett, for example, had to pull a 500-mile day the other day, moving seed from here to El Paso and back, just trying to get some growers taken care of as they were going. We have had tremendous help from a lot of our processing towers, but also our front counters. So, Hargers, Atlanta, Neoga, and El Paso received a lot of our South American production on our new varieties. And sometimes those teams really had to adapt to get things packaged on the floor, get ready to go. And then, of course, we got to distribute it to where it needs to go. So Dave Schweitzer, Leslie Amos, Michelle Wright, they were getting things moved for me where they needed to go. Front counter was jumping on, getting things scheduled before I could even tell them it was on the floor. It was ready to go out, or a grower was coming in to get it. So just tremendous effort across the network to get things packaged, moved where they needed to go, because there were areas that could plant when we couldn't necessarily. So trying to put those hot areas, get them to seed as quick as possible to get some things planted in May if we possibly could. Yeah, I know, tremendous effort by really all the teams involved, from production, the distribution, processing, everybody who I know of several employees that volunteered, to do things outside of their own department to come and make things happen. And I had one grower recognize one of our
team members that delivered him seed at midnight so he could finish up that night with their corn. So tremendous effort by our team. As we look at the later planting, Jason, Michael, what do you see as the potential impact of that in terms of, available seed? Any challenges that you see as we head on into the season and get into harvest?
Sure. So the probably the obvious concern is later planting. Typically, you think of less yield with later planting, and I've seen in my 15 years experience, kind of in this role, that sometimes later planted doesn't always mean less yield, but usually that's a decent correlation. So things that we know are going to be challenging for us is that we put things in a very tight window. So come detasseling time, we are going to have a very clear workload, a pretty surmountable workload that we'll have to tackle. The other thing as it gets later planted is a pretty likely situation is if it's an early fall or we don't get good heat this summer, worrying about getting that crop in, even if it does become a pretty good yield. So those are probably the two big unknowns, but we're going to continue to persevere and fight those battles as they come.
Yeah, and the good news is we got it all in.
And it's in.
So that's a big part of the battle in this particular season, and I know some farmers weren't able to do that. So we're very blessed and fortunate to with everyone's efforts to accomplish that. Michael, you have anything to add?
On soybeans, PFR data would tell us the same thing: potential lower yields. And so we're looking at most of our seed went in the ground, say after June 1st. Not all of it, but a lot of it did, and that's kind of one of those thresholds where we do see some potential yield loss. So, we are trying to do some things to secure some more acres, more on a spec contract, kind of a just in case. If we do have those impacted yields, we've got some acres to turn to that we'll have supply. We're trying to focus by trait, by maturity, so maybe we end up having some big piles of certain varieties, but hey, we want to have something to sell that we can spread out on a guy if need be. So just trying to be a little bit proactive. We don't know for sure the yields are going to be impacted. The rest of the season is going to determine that. But if they are, we want to have some options and opportunities that we're trying to position ourselves now in the early part of the planting as opposed to maybe wait until it's an emergency. So.
Corn has done a few things the same way in responding to farmers taking earlier maturity corns. We've seen more of that go out the door, and so there around the first part of June, we prioritized our planting around making sure that earlier season things got planted and maximized if there was a chance that we weren't going to get everything planted. So we made decisions around priority that way, and I know there were quite a few team members that had to adapt to moving hybrids field to field and moving seed across locations, some of those logistical challenges. We also increased some acres just with the anticipation there could be some yield challenges and where there was some opportunities. And so we feel pretty good about supply because it's planted now. So
yeah, absolutely. So I want to thank you guys personally for the work and effort that you've done in leading your teams through this challenging season. And I want to thank other employees for your efforts in making the best of this situation. Leadership that you've shown, pitching in, helping others, and thanks to your families as well. None of us could do it without the support of our families during these times, and so I want to make a special thank you to them, and thank you again for all that you've done to get us to this point. Looking forward to seeing how this season ends up. Thank you.